Hello, today we'll be going over chest and tricep day. Alright, so what we're going to start off with is just a chest press mimic. Now the way chest or benching works is you usually have the bench to apply opposite force. The band at the back does do this, so this is why we're able to go ahead and just at the back here, you do lose quite a bit of tension, especially with a smaller cable. If you want to hit more of the clavicular head of the pectoralis, the upper portion of the pec, you can go ahead and just change. But I recommend actually laying on the floor to do that. So I'm going to go ahead and just show a quick example. Alright, I don't know if I'm in view, so all I can do is hope I'm in view. And we just set up, and we can go ahead and change that. Alright, I don't have much room to work with at that second, over in that area, so, and I want to make sure I'm showing everybody what I'm doing. Alright, so we'll just go ahead and get good 6 to 8 reps. So, and because we're using bands, we're not going to let it go back super fast. We want that tension in the pec. Another thing to keep in mind is that the chest or the pecs are generally considered a smaller muscle body. They can push out a lot of power with a traditional barbell bench press, but for this specifically, we don't need to go heavy. We just need to make sure we're getting good tension, with proper form, and you can really feel it. Alright, so I'm just going to jump to the purple. Actually, to be honest, I'm going to just go ahead and skip up to the green. Alright, so now the way I do this is I get the band like this, I spread my arms. So if you're not able to do this, or do this, go ahead and just set it up behind your back. Get your hands like this. Alright, and just spend a moment and get seemingly proper tension on both ends. And we want to bring our hands like this, so the band lays on itself. We can go ahead and bench press. And the great thing about this is if you find that you're going too close, you have too close of a grip at the end range of motion, you're able to sweep it out and actually get a wider end range of motion, or get a wider end range of motion. Alright, so as we go heavier with the bands, you would most likely imagine that they would be hard to perform because, once again, you don't have the bench providing that force for you to press your back up against, but the band itself provides it. Alright, so once again, just like this, and I'm going to go like this so it lays across each other. You can spend a moment, make sure you got correct tension on both ends. If you have one side too much, you can just spend a moment and slide it back and forth. I do recommend a shirt. If you need to reset it, if you find that it's not sitting on top of each other, just go ahead and bring it back and keep trying to reset it. You'll find that you just have to put a little bit more tension on one side of the band, and you're able to reset it back up. Alright, so as you see, the band provides the tension on my back for me to do this. And if you see the way the band is running, we want to keep that placement as close to the way I have it as possible. Alright, so let's just get down to the lower band used as an example quick. Alright, so The reason why we want to make sure that we have it running roughly in this area is because the line of pull will be correct with a traditional bench press. You have the proper cue for benching. If you're just going like this, it's not a benching cue. A benching cue would be more something where you just bring it and you're able to do that with the bands. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and just give it a minute. I'm going to make sure we're taking proper rest times between our sets. And we don't want to be doing that. Alright, so as you see, I do have smaller hands compared to the band itself. Alright, so just to give you an idea of how what I'm going to be working with. Alright. I will state that those with a larger arm length will most likely find some of this a little bit more difficult, especially some of the tricep workouts I'm going to show today. Just because you will be starting at a higher tension at the starting of your set because you're a taller person and you will require more tension on that band to even start some of the things that I'm going to be showing, like the overhead tricep extensions. So let's just go ahead and jump back into chest. Our barbell bench press mimic. Once again, just make sure you have tension correct on both sides. And once again, I create little handles, and we're going to go ahead and just bench that out. You want to keep your shoulder blades retracted still. You do not want to you don't want to protract at all here. Alright, so we're still doing this like we do a traditional bench press. Alright, slow it down. Alright, so I'm just using a lighter band as an example. When you get here and you find that you don't know what to do with the band, an easy way is just get one hand free. With the larger, thicker bands, it's obviously going to be a little bit different. You'll figure out what's best for you. But once again, no matter what, you don't want to be releasing that tension at the end of your exercise set. You want to make sure that you're performing the full eccentric and then letting go at the eccentric. Okay? Alright. We are going to switch up to just a traditional chest fly. Once again, we're going to set up just like we were doing bench press again. Alright, so bands running across each other as best as you can. And just take a second, make sure I got proper tension on both sides. And we want to make sure we're keeping our elbows in a good position. We don't want to be like this. We want to be like this. Alright? And I recommend trying to touch your fingers together, or even just your fists if you don't want to lose your tight hand grip. Alright? So we're just going to go ahead and do this set. I personally like to bring it a little bit up at the end. Everybody's different. So just do what's comfortable for you biomechanically. You definitely want to start out lighter with this for the first couple times. It's a little bit different than a chest fly machine. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and give it a minute. We're going to breathe, and then we'll do our next set. What we'll be going over today will be the barbell bench press mimic, the chest fly. We'll also be going over a couple upper chest variations on how to hit the clavicular portion of the pectoralis, the upper chest, that upper shelf. Alright, and we're also going to go ahead and learn some overhead tricep extensions. with the bands, both single-handed and double-handed. And we're going to also do some medial tricep. So our overhead will be for our long head of the tricep, and then we're going to just do long head of the tricep, and then we're going to do like a more isolated single. We're going to start with the double, then the single, and then we're going to move on to the medial tricep. All right. All right. So I do believe I started with the triple. That is the great part about this. You can go ahead and listen to your body itself, depending on your mind-muscle connection. If you find that you just don't feel like you're putting a little bit too much tension on something that isn't the targeted muscle, if you don't feel comfortable, then drop it down. This is not meant to be done as a heavyweight power-based routine. Once again, we're keeping it as a stretch-based isolatory workout, okay? We are able to mimic some compounds, but we need to be very careful with our form, and we need to make sure the line of pull is correct, okay? So, just going to reset, double check, and I'm just going to go ahead. So this is the way I traditionally do my chest flies at home. You can do this laying on the floor. It actually feels just as great. You can do this on a bench. I do have a bench right here. Alright, so using this bench right here as an example. Alright, I don't know if it's fully in the shot, but we're just going to leave it as it is. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and do this with a blue band, the heavier blue band after. Just give me 1 moment. I want to make sure this is nice. Wonderful. All right. This is just some no-name bench. You can handle a couple 100 pounds, no problem though. Depending on your bench, work with what you have. I traditionally have always used a flat bench, just at home, because I'm always able to get anything that requires an angled bench. I am able to figure out how to do it either standing, traditional athletic style, or with obviously the barbell. I don't want to compromise my bench for just some extra workouts that I'm able to do other ways. Alright, so once again, just set up. Make sure we got equal tension on both ends and get your shoulder blades retracted. And you can just go ahead and I want a little bit more retraction there. Alright, so my elbows are, you gotta keep an eye on your elbows. You don't want them going back like this. Alright? Once again, as I said, touch those fingers together. Okay. So everyone's different. Some people might have a lot more of a powerlifting arch, just in general. Generally, I just have a little bit more of an arch to my style. Even when I do just anything chest oriented, I find I get better activation with my chest. If I'm like this, I do not feel same chest activation, obviously. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and get this bench out of the way. And as you saw, I keep my bench on a black rubber mat. Everyone's different. If you do consider that, I recommend 2. 1 for your barbell as well if you have that. But we're going to try to just keep this with the band set. And alright, so. For those who would consider this heavier, it is very possible to go heavier. So we're going to grab the orange band. Alright. Once again, just not so much hand. I don't have much at all. I have to curl it in my hand. Alright. Oh. You'll get the hang of this. It will take some people a little bit more time, obviously. The bigger bands are hard, but the medium-sized bands are actually very easy to work with. So, once again, I want to get my shoulder blades retracted. And let's just go ahead and fly. Nice chest fly. Once again, try to touch those hands together. We have the freedom to move our hands. Another thing, if we go ahead and want to just do a drop set, this is now going to get into some upper chest variations and some other chest fly variations. So with the smaller bands that aren't going to sit pretty on each other, just make sure they're lined up and your tension is right on each side. And you can go ahead and fly low, fly medium, fly high. Alright, if you fly high, if your band is a little bit messed up on your back, it'll roll. Alright. Even going like this will hit the upper chest. Alright. Touch the hands together. We can pray for gains. Alright. So I'm actually going to go ahead and do one more of those as a drop set. Well, technically this is going to be ascending, but it's absolutely fine. The great thing about the band set is when you do a traditional barbell or dumbbell, you are stuck to a fixed path no matter what to maintain form and to maintain, so you're not creating an extra fulcrum by having it a little bit too forward, or so you're like this and you have this fulcrum having to hold. If you some reason push it out like this, we get greater chest growth potential through the bands because we're able to freely get more motor unit activation throughout the entire head. We're not just hitting one strong neural pathway and building that unit there, those motor units to that singular central powerful nerve there that is doing most of the work when you do a power-based routine. With this, we're doing a stretch-based. We want to get more motor unit activation, okay? This is for hypertrophic reasons, obviously, for growth potential. For those saying that bands do not have growth potential, they 100% do. So I'm going to just grab this. Alright. The great thing with bands, depending on your mobility with your shoulders, they are a great stretching tool as well. Alright. Just take it slow. We're not doing jerky movements, we're stretching. Stretches aren't jerks. This is not a stretch. This right here, just holding this, is a stretch. Letting it go is not really a stretch. But this is a stretch. Going like this is a jerky movement. So we're just stretching. Alright? For a lot of people, a lot of videos I see where people will say, let's stretch, and then they start doing pre-activation, which is basically like extreme light versions before they move on. It's basically jerky movements because they're just doing light, using triceps as an example, they're just doing light movements, right? They're just getting blood flowing to the air. It's not really gonna have growth potential for tearing apart the actual muscle fiber and activating all those motor units. So I'm gonna get this done, because we want to move on to triceps. So because let's go ahead and try to make this one more upper chest focused. So just keep yourself nice and tight. And as you see, this is my normal stance. And I just bring it back like I'm doing a traditional bench press or something. Alright. And keep your shoulder blades retracted. For those who want a front view, to see what is happening. And it's caught on my traps. Some people might not be able to do this, obviously, for biomechanical or like their own physical reasons. Just some people have wider backs, some people have different musculature, different size musculature. Obviously, a much bigger, wider person is going to put this band under more tension just by going like this than someone like myself. So somebody with 1.5 times more width than me, let's say using a powerful example, obviously, like let's say Eddie Hall or Thor, or yeah, one of those individuals, when they're like this, they'll have the band out more like this. They will have the band under tension already much greater than I do when I'm just like this, alright? Just using that as an example. Wider people will find that they will have to, wider, taller people will have to put more tension on the bands to perform pretty much any of these. Alright, so I just want one more, a chest, one more finisher. It's a great thing. You can listen to your body. If you feel like you want a little bit more, just go ahead. You're not taxing a single neural pathway with this. With this, you're trying to tax all the motor units of the entire muscle body. You want to activate all the neural links. I guess that's the best way of putting it, the neural links. But basically, when you perform a bench press, you have that powerful, you have that main nerve that is going to be performing most of the action. That main nerve is going to have those, is going to activate only those muscle fibers it's connected to. It's not going to activate the full musculature for growth potential. So what I'm saying is that you need stretch-based workouts to grow chest mass. Some people with obviously different genetics, much better genetics and stuff, they will be able to just do traditional bench and still likely have an amazing chest. Just because they're activating one strong neural pathway doesn't mean they're still not performing eccentrics on that barbell or on that barbell exercise, like descending after their heavier sets, making sure that they're actually So basically, try to make sure you introduce as some type of stretch-based workout to your chest. It'll give you way more hypertrophic potential, more visual potential growth. For power-specific reasons, this does not apply though. So we're going to go ahead and switch over to overhead triceps. There's two different ways you can do this, double-handed or single-handed. We're going to go ahead and start with double-handed. So we just set it up. What I do here, I use a neutral grip for my overhead tricep extensions. You can change your hand positioning, but based on the way I set it up here, you will see why it's most comfortable to keep it neutral. Alright, so what I do is we want to get the band in the middle. We want to make sure we have roughly the same tension on each end. And this is much easier to get a mind-muscle connection with. This part will be when you want to wear a shirt, because this hurts like hell on my hairy arms. Alright, so then we just get it back. Don't stretch back. I just bring it back to bring my shoulders back more. And we want to keep our hips tight, our core tight. We're not going to lean back. We're not going to lean forward. We want to be nice and straight up. And we're just going to... Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and just drop this down. When you want to let it go, put it in one hand. Or you could just let it go completely. It'll slam off the floor. But if you want to be quiet about it, just put one hand down. Drop it in this hand. It has no tension by the time it hits that hand, okay? So let's go ahead and show you a side view of what the hell is going on here, okay? Probably wondering, what is going on here? The fuck is he talking about? So we're going to just go like this. And with this, we're going to go ahead and once again, you see my hand, it's underneath my hands. When I bring it up, and oh god, this hurts. Oh god. And I want to I always lean back, just because I always find it helps me get my positioning. And then we can go ahead and just do our tricep overhead extensions, okay? And with these, we want to really make sure we're getting full range of motion. You can just go slow and, alright. You will find that it kind of pulls on the back of your pants and stuff. Depending on what you're wearing, it should have no effect on the band itself and the tension. Alright? And if you see the way my hands are, my finger knuckles are kind of together. Alright, so they're like this, but overhead. So I start like this. And once it's behind my back, I can go ahead and like this. And it creates a small loop in my hand there too. Alright? So we're going to give it a minute before we move on to the next one. Actually, there's some other tricep stuff I can show you as well today. With the door. Alright. Once again, you want to make sure you're taking longer breaks between your sets. This is just a little bit of a deload day, or this is a deload week for me basically. So I'm just taking it easy. I always make sure I don't do a crazy stretch in the morning. I do a 2-minute stretch in the morning. Just make sure I'm getting blood flowing from my legs. I'm stretching my hips just a little bit. Just getting moving, basically. Some people won't be able to do that though, so I have no idea where the hell I was going with that. So we're just gonna go ahead and jump to our next set. Back up. That's the great part, is if you need to move it, once you have your feet in position and you can move these bands anywhere. Back and forth. Back together. Wonderful. So once again. Now, once again, kinks in the band. What I mean is, if the band has a natural bend in it at certain points, it can become a little annoying. If it has a single natural bend, try to keep that natural bend where your feet are, okay? So once again, we just pray it over. Alright, so once again, we want to make sure we're always wearing a shirt when you do this, unless you're okay with latex rubber trying to rip your arm hair out. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and just get this done. And I want a really good full range of motion. And even at the bottom here, I have roughly at least 20 pounds of tension. But when I bring it up here, it feels roughly, but more like 60 pounds. I do believe this one's rated 20 to 80, the purple, but we're not going to worry about that. Alright. Because it is in the chest area, those wondering about the serratus anterior itself, the serratus anterior stabilizes overhead workouts. I'm going to just use one example. If I go like this, if I'm holding a cable, and I go like this is the only true way I know of actually getting the more isolated activation out of the serratus anterior. If you're doing any type of overhead-based workouts, you will always be working that stabilization from the serratus anterior, okay? So it is not going to get activated with chest workouts. It is in that area, but because of the biomechanics of the way it functions, it is actually meant for holding overhead workouts, okay? The only way of truly isolating it is going like this, very light, and I'm going to be honest, it does not feel good. I recommend not trying to isolate the serratus anterior, instead trying to incorporate overhead workouts into your routine, and you'll always be getting that activation in that area. For those who want to try to isolate it and wonder how I've done it in the past, if you are at a cable machine in a gym, you are able to stand against the back of it. The cable is running behind you, sadly, and you grab it, or sorry, you want it to be all the way down between your legs, and you grab it. And it has to be a lightweight. And this is going to be stretch based once again, and we want to keep shoulder socket health. So you just get, this is your starting position, and you're just going like this. That's the only way with a cable running between your legs and then behind you on the cable machine, specifically in a gym, on how to. And with the bands, you could do it with a band. Once again, I don't recommend this unless one, you're used to it, you've trained for it, or you have a direct goal of. In the end, it's not a muscle that's going to look great either way if you bulk it up when other things aren't up to that level. It basically, if you're doing overhead movements, it'll grow naturally to an appropriate size. If you start isolating it, you could end up looking really stupid, okay? So you don't want to do that. Especially when you go like this, and you have a larger area here, but then no chest, okay? Alright, so let's go ahead and, I do believe I already did the black and purple, so we're going to jump to the green. Alright. Once again, if you're wondering where my feet positioning is, this is the general area. That's where I like to keep it running. Alright. With this, you can let it go a little bit further back because of the way it is. I'm able to work with this, okay? Everyone's different. So I'm going to go ahead and give you a side view of this set. Alright. So once again, and we just go ahead and really rep that. And if you find your positioning, if you don't have your pelvis tight, go ahead and just drop it down, give it a second, fix your positioning, and then go ahead and start again. That's what happens when you let it drop down. I don't recommend that. Always try to get it to your end range motion and then let it go. If you're not used to any type of jerk in a direction your shoulder socket might not like, or any of your ligaments or tendons, you could really mess something up. Alright. And we're going to give it a minute, and then we're going to go ahead and attempt a heavy one. I'll most likely fail, but there are people out there who will want to say, can this be done heavy? Can I progressively overload on this? Oh, hell yes. That is all I have to say. I won't even be able to do this band. I'll be trying to finish off with this one. This is my second biggest band. And once again, remember, this band set is $159.99, I believe, from CanadianProtein.ca. I do believe they became .com. Okay. So my blue band is naturally just has a little bit of a bend all the way throughout it. I don't know if you can quite tell. If you